Diane stormed out of the Oakwood Estates Community Center, her face flushed with rage. She clutched the cease and desist letter in her trembling hand, its ominous words burning into her mind. How dare they threaten her like this? This was her neighborhood, her domain, and she refused to back down. Marching back to her car, Diane's sharp gaze landed on the service dog sitting patiently beside its owner, Jessica. The woman's smug expression only further fueled Diane's indignation. This was unacceptable. She would not tolerate an animal disrupting the pristine image of her beloved community. Slamming the car door behind her, Diane dialed her lawyer with trembling fingers. "Get down here immediately," she demanded. "We're going to put an end to this dog nonsense once and for all." Within the hour, Diane's high-priced attorney materialized, his briefcase in hand. He listened intently as she recounted the confrontation, his brow furrowing with each word. "I see," he murmured, stroking his chin. "This is a delicate situation, but I believe we have a strong case. The law is on our side here." Diane's eyes narrowed, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "Then let's do it. I want that dog gone, and I want it gone yesterday." The attorney nodded, already formulating his strategy. "Leave it to me. I'll handle this personally." Jessica, oblivious to the impending storm, continued her daily walk with her service dog, Buddy. The gentle golden retriever dutifully guided her, his unwavering focus a testament to his training. As they strolled through the meticulously manicured streets, Jessica reveled in the sense of independence and security Buddy provided. Suddenly, a sleek black sedan pulled up beside them, and Diane's lawyer emerged, his expression grim. "Ma'am, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to remove that animal from the premises immediately," he declared, his voice laced with authority. Jessica's brow furrowed in confusion. "Excuse me? Buddy is my service dog. I'm legally entitled to have him with me." The lawyer shook his head, undeterred. "I'm sorry, but the Homeowners Association has issued a cease and desist order. You're in violation of the community's bylaws. I suggest you comply, or will be forced to take further action." Jessica's heart sank. This couldn't be happening. She had worked tirelessly to train Buddy, and he had become an integral part of her daily life. The thought of being separated from him filled her with dread. But Buddy helps me with my mobility and my anxiety. He's a necessity, not a pet," she pleaded, her voice trembling. The lawyer's expression remained unwavering. "I understand, but the rules are the rules. Now, please remove the animal from the premises, or we'll be forced to escort you out." Jessica's fingers intertwined with Buddy's soft fur, her mind racing. This couldn't be happening. She had to fight, for both her own sake and Buddy's. Steeling her resolve, she met the lawyer's gaze with determination. "I'm not going anywhere without my service dog. You'll have to drag us both out of here." The lawyer's brow furrowed as Jessica's defiant words echoed through the quiet street. He had expected her to comply without a fuss, but this woman was clearly not one to back down easily. "Ma'am, I implore you to reconsider. This will only lead to further legal action, and I can assure you that the Homeowners Association is prepared to see this through to the end." Jessica's grip on Buddy's harness tightened. "I don't care what the Homeowners Association wants. Buddy is my lifeline, and I'm not letting him go without a fight." The lawyer sighed, adjusting his tie. "Very well. I'll have no choice but to call the police and have you both removed from the premises." As the lawyer strode back to his car, Jessica's heart raced. She knew the risks, but she couldn't abandon Buddy. He was more than just a service animal. He was her closest companion, her link to independence. She wouldn't let anyone take that away from her. Minutes later, the wail of sirens pierced the air, and two uniformed officers approached Jessica and Buddy. "Ma'am, we've received a call about a disturbance. You'll need to come with us." Jessica's eyes pleaded with the officers. "Please, you have to understand. Buddy is my service dog. I can't function without him. This is discrimination. The officers exchanged a glance, their expressions conflicted. We understand, ma'am, but we have our orders. If you refuse to comply, we'll have to arrest you for trespassing. Tears welled in Jessica's eyes as she realized the gravity of the situation. She couldn't bear the thought of being separated from Buddy, but she also couldn't bear the consequences of defying the authorities. Torn between her principles and her desire for self-preservation, she made a split-second decision. Okay, I'll go with you. But please, don't take Buddy away from me. The officers nodded, their faces somber. We'll do our best to make sure he stays with you. Let's go. As Jessica was escorted to the police car, Diane watched from her window, a triumphant smile on her face. She had won this round, and she had no intention of letting Jessica and her animal interfere with the pristine image of Oakwood Estates ever again. The holding cell was cold and cramped, but Jessica barely noticed. Her focus was entirely on Buddy, who sat faithfully by her side, his warm brown eyes filled with concern. It's going to be okay, boy, she whispered, running her fingers through his soft fur. We're going to get through this, I promise. The sound of the cell door creaking open drew her attention, and she looked up to see a police officer standing in the doorway. Miss Hanson, the judge has agreed to see you. Let's go. Jessica's heart raced as she followed the officer down the dimly lit hallway. Buddy walked beside her, his presence a steadying force in the midst of the chaos. When they entered the courtroom, Diane and her lawyer were already there, their expressions smug. Jessica felt a surge of anger, but she forced herself to remain calm. She had to focus on her case, not on her adversary. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, eyed Jessica and Buddy carefully. Miss Hanson, I understand you've been accused of trespassing and refusing to comply with the cease and desist order. Is that correct? Jessica nodded, her voice trembling. Yes, Your Honor. But Buddy is my service dog. I need him to function in my daily life. I wasn't trying to cause any trouble. I was just. The judge held up a hand, silencing her. I'm aware of the laws regarding service animals, Miss Hanson. However, the Homeowners Association claims that Buddy is not properly registered and that his presence violates their community bylaws. Diane's lawyer stepped forward, his expression triumphant. That's correct, Your Honor. We have a clear-cut case here. Ms. Hanson is in flagrant violation of our community rules, and we demand that she and her animal be removed immediately. Jessica's heart sank. This was a battle she couldn't afford to lose. Buddy was her lifeline, her connection to the world. Without him, she would be utterly lost. Your Honor, please, she pleaded, her voice thick with emotion. Buddy is my everything. I can't function without him. This is discrimination, pure and simple. The judge's gaze softened slightly, and she seemed to consider Jessica's words carefully. I understand the gravity of this situation, Ms. Hanson. However, the law is the law, and the Homeowners Association appears to be within their rights here. Jessica felt her world crumbling around her. This couldn't be happening. Buddy was her lifeline, her constant companion. The thought of being separated from him filled her with dread. Just as the judge was about to deliver her ruling, a new voice rang out from the back of the courtroom. Your Honor, if I may. All eyes turned to the back of the courtroom, where a tall, imposing figure stood. It was a man in a dark suit, his expression stern, but his gaze unwavering. Your Honor, my name is Andrew Carlson, and I'm an attorney specializing in disability rights and service animal cases. I'd like to offer my assistance in this matter. The judge eyed the newcomer with curiosity. Mr. Carlson, this is highly irregular. The Homeowners Association has already presented their case, and I was just about to rule. Diane's lawyer jumped to his feet, his face flushed with anger. Your Honor, we object to this intrusion. This is a clear-cut case, and we've already presented our evidence. Andrew Carlson raised a calming hand. I understand your concerns, Your Honor. But I believe there are some crucial facts that have been overlooked here. If you'll allow me a few moments, I'd like to present my case." The judge considered his words for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, Mr. Carlson. You have the floor." Andrew turned to face the courtroom, his gaze sweeping over the assembled crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is a clear-cut case of discrimination against a person with a disability. Ms. Hanson relies on her service dog, Buddy, to assist her with her daily activities and to manage her anxiety. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, she has a legal right to have Buddy accompany her in all public spaces, including this community." Diane's lawyer opened his mouth to interrupt, but Andrew raised a hand to silence him. Furthermore, the Homeowners Association's bylaws explicitly state that service animals are permitted, provided they are properly registered and trained. Buddy is a fully certified service dog, and his paperwork is in order. The judge's brow furrowed as she considered Andrew's words. But the Homeowners Association has presented evidence that Buddy is not registered with the community. Andrew nodded. "That's true, Your Honor, but the law does not require service animals to be registered with individual communities. As long as they are properly certified, they are entitled to access in all public spaces." Diane's lawyer scoffed. "This is outrageous. The Homeowners Association has the right to enforce its own rules and regulations. We won't stand for this kind of interference." Andrew's gaze hardened. "With all due respect, Your Honor, the law is clear on this matter. The Homeowners Association cannot discriminate against Miss Hanson or her service dog, regardless of their own bylaws." The judge considered the arguments carefully, her expression thoughtful. Finally, she turned to Diane's lawyer, her voice firm. "Mr. Haywood, I'm afraid I must rule in favor of Miss Hanson. The Homeowners Association's attempt to bar her service dog from the community is a clear violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Ms. Hanson is free to go, and I'm awarding her $50,000 in damages for the emotional distress and legal expenses she has incurred." Diane's face turned crimson with rage, and she shot a venomous glare at Jessica. But Jessica, overcome with relief and gratitude, could only smile as she hugged Buddy tightly, her tears of joy mingling with his soft fur. As Jessica and Buddy stepped out of the courthouse, a crowd of reporters had already gathered, their cameras and microphones at the ready. "Ms. Hanson, can you tell us about your experience?" One reporter shouted, pushing a microphone in her direction. Jessica paused, her hand instinctively gripping Buddy's harness. "It's been a really difficult and emotional experience, but I'm just grateful that the judge recognized the importance of Buddy in my life. He's not just a pet. He's my lifeline, my link to independence. I would have been lost without him." Another reporter piped up, his expression eager. "And what do you think of the Homeowners Association's actions? Do you believe they were motivated by discrimination?" Jessica sighed, her gaze darkening. "I absolutely believe this was an act of discrimination. Buddy is a certified service dog, and he's essential to my daily functioning. For the Homeowners Association to try and bar him from the community is not only illegal, but it's a blatant violation of my rights as a person with a disability." The reporters scribbled furiously, their questions coming rapid fire. "How do you feel about the $50,000 in damages awarded to you? Do you plan to use that money to take further action against the Homeowners Association?" Jessica's expression turned thoughtful. "The money is certainly helpful, but it's not about that for me. It's about standing up for my rights and the rights of others with disabilities. I hope this sends a strong message that we won't be silenced or pushed aside. We deserve the same access and opportunities as everyone else." As the reporters continued to bombard her with questions, Jessica felt a sense of pride and determination. This battle had been hard-fought, but she had emerged victorious. She would not let the Homeowners Association's actions deter her or discourage others in similar situations. Diane, meanwhile, had retreated to her home, her fury simmering beneath the surface. She paced the floor of her pristine living room, her manicured hands clenched into fists. This is an outrage. She fumed, her voice laced with venom. That woman and her stupid dog have made a mockery of our community. I won't stand for it. Reaching for her phone, Diane began dialing a familiar number. Hello, Frank. It's Diane. We need to have a little chat about our dog problem in Oakwood Estates. In the days that followed, the media frenzy surrounding Jessica and Buddy's ordeal showed no signs of slowing down. Reporters flocked to the Oakwood Estates community, seeking interviews and updates on the ongoing saga. Diane, meanwhile, had retreated from the public eye, her anger simmering beneath the surface. But behind the scenes, she was plotting her next move, determined to regain control of the situation. One afternoon, as Jessica and Buddy were out for their usual walk, they encountered a familiar face. Frank, the head of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association. Ms. Hanson, he greeted her, his voice dripping with false cordiality. I was hoping to have a word with you. Jessica's grip on Buddy's harness tightened, her instincts telling her to be on guard. What is it, Frank? Frank's expression darkened. I understand you've been enjoying your little victory, but I'm here to tell you that this isn't over. The Homeowners Association has decided to appeal the court's decision. Jessica's heart sank. Appeal? But the judge was clear. Buddy is my legal right as a person with a disability. You can't just ignore the law. Frank's lips curled into a sneer. Oh, we're not ignoring the law, Ms. Hanson. We're simply finding ways to work within it. And trust me, we have some very skilled lawyers on our side. Jessica felt a chill run down her spine. What are you saying? I'm saying that you better enjoy your little triumph while it lasts, Frank warned, his eyes narrowing. Because we're going to do everything in our power to get that dog out of our community. With that, he turned on his heel and stalked away, leaving Jessica and Buddy alone on the sidewalk, their hearts pounding with renewed fear and uncertainty. As she watched Frank's retreating figure, Jessica couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. She had thought the battle was over, but it seemed she was only at the beginning of a much longer and more arduous fight. Reaching down, she ran her fingers through Buddy's soft fur, drawing strength from his steady presence. It's okay, boy, she whispered. We're not going to let them win. We're going to keep fighting, no matter what. Back in her immaculate home, Diane sat at her desk, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she drafted yet another complaint to the Homeowners Association. Her eyes glinted with a dangerous light, her determination unwavering. This isn't over, Jessica, she murmured, her lips curling into a cold smile. Not by a long shot. Over the next few weeks, the conflict between Jessica and the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association escalated to new heights. The appeal process dragged on, with both sides fighting tooth and nail to sway the court's decision. Diane, in her relentless pursuit of victory, had pulled out all the stops. She had rallied the support of her fellow community members, stoking their fears and resentments about the disruptive presence of Buddy the service dog. This isn't just about one woman and her pet, Diane would declare at the Homeowners Association meetings, her voice laced with righteous indignation. It's about protecting the integrity of our community, our property values, and our way of life. Her words struck a chord with many of the residents who had grown increasingly uneasy about the influx of outsiders and the perceived threat to their pristine, orderly existence. Meanwhile, Jessica fought back with every ounce of her strength, enlisting the help of disability rights advocates and legal experts. She knew that the stakes were higher than ever, and she refused to back down, no matter the cost. Buddy is my lifeline, she would plead to the judges, her eyes brimming with tears. He's not just a pet. He's the reason I can even function in this world. You can't take that away from me. The legal battles raged on, with both sides throwing every argument and tactic they could muster. It was a war of attrition, and Jessica was rapidly running out of resources to sustain the fight. One day, as she sat in the courtroom, waiting anxiously for the latest ruling, a familiar face appeared in the crowd. Andrew Carlson, the attorney who had come to her aid in the initial case. "Miss Hanson," he said, his voice warm and reassuring. "I heard about the appeal, and I wanted to let you know that I'm here to help." Jessica's face lit up with hope. "Mr. Carlson, I can't believe you're here. I was starting to feel so overwhelmed." Andrew placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, Jessica. I'm not going to let them take Buddy away from you. This fight isn't over yet." With renewed determination, Jessica and Andrew prepared to face the court once more, ready to defend her right to keep her beloved service dog by her side. Diane, meanwhile, sat in the courtroom, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. She had thought she had the upper hand, but the reappearance of Andrew Carlson had thrown a wrench into her plans. "This isn't over," she muttered under her breath, her fingers tightening around the armrest of her chair. "I won't let that woman and her dog win." The courtroom was tense as the judge took her seat, her expression grave. Diane and her lawyers sat on one side, their faces set in determined scowls, while Jessica and Andrew Carlson occupied the other side, their postures filled with cautious hope. The judge cleared her throat, her gaze sweeping across the room. "We've heard a great deal of arguments from both sides regarding the presence of Ms. Hanson's service dog, Buddy, in the Oakwood Estates community. After careful consideration, I have reached a decision." Diane leaned forward, her eyes narrowing with anticipation. Jessica gripped Buddy's harness, her heart pounding in her chest. "The court has found that the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association's attempts to bar Ms. Hanson and her service dog from the community are a clear violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Their appeals and continued challenges have been deemed frivolous and without merit." A collective gasp swept through the courtroom, and Diane's face turned beet red with fury. Andrew Carlson, however, turned to Jessica with a triumphant smile. Furthermore, the judge continued, "The Homeowners Association is hereby ordered to pay an additional $25,000 in damages to Ms. Hanson, on top of the previous $50,000 award, for the emotional distress and legal expenses they have caused her." Jessica couldn't believe her ears. She had won. Again. Tears of joy welled in her eyes as she embraced Buddy, the two of them reveling in their victory. Diane, on the other hand, looked as if she might explode. She jumped to her feet, her face contorted with rage. "This is an outrage," she shouted, her voice shrill and accusatory. "You can't do this to us. We won't stand for it." The judge fixed Diane with a stern glare. "The decision is final, Mrs. Walters. I suggest you accept it and move forward. Attempting to further harass or discriminate against Miss Hanson will only result in more severe penalties." Diane opened her mouth to argue, but her lawyer placed a restraining hand on her arm, shaking his head discreetly. Defeated, she sank back into her seat, her eyes burning with resentment. As Jessica and Buddy left the courthouse, they were surrounded by a throng of reporters, all eager to capture the moment. "Ms. Hanson, how does it feel to have won this battle?" one reporter asked, shoving a microphone in her face. Jessica smiled, her hand resting on Buddy's head. "I'm just grateful that the law was upheld and that my rights as a person with a disability were recognized. Buddy is my lifeline, and I'll never stop fighting to keep him by my side." As the reporters continued to bombard her with questions, Jessica knew that the war was not yet over. Diane and the Homeowners Association would undoubtedly continue to find new ways to challenge her and Buddy's presence in the community. But for now, in this moment, she felt a sense of triumph and vindication. She had stood up for herself and for others like her, and she had won. And with Buddy by her side, she knew that she had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead.